Rubik's Cubes are just getting way too expensive. The recent GAN 13 cube costs a whopping $84, and when a premium GAN 13 comes out, you already know it's going to be almost $100. But that's not the most expensive speed cube. The most expensive WCA speed cube is actually right here, and it might not be what you expect. So you might be wondering, this is just an MGC Square 1, isn't that just $21? Even the premium version of it, which is this Square 1, is $40. So how is this the most expensive speed cube out there? Well, it's because you can't just buy this cube. You also have to buy this, and this, and this, and this. So why do I need all of these cubes? Well, it's because these cubes are all broken. And this one has a bent core. So what was the price of an MGC Square 1? This was a prototype, $21. Then I got the Max MGC Square 1. This was $35. And then the stock MGC, $21 again. Then the Angstrom one, which is $32. And then the Isaacs one, which is $40. Making it a total of $150 for a Square 1 that has a bent core. And if I replace this one, that will be approaching $200. So was the title clickbait? A tiny bit, but it still is true. This was $150. And only one of them is really fully usable, if even that. Now obviously I'm really lucky to be sponsored by the Cubico, so I don't have to actually spend this much money on all these cubes. But for someone who's not sponsored, I can't imagine how annoying it must be to just break your cube all the time and just get replacements. Now what do I mean by breaking the cube? Let's take apart this one to find out. Well, one issue with this cube is the screw kind of breaks easily, so even with this cube, it's really hard to unscrew it just because the screw head is just kind of broken. Let's try this one. So other than the screw breaking, I guess, there are also a lot of parts where pieces can break or bend. Sometimes these edges bend a little bit. As you can see, it's not fully straight, which is I guess not the hugest deal. But the bigger deal is in the core, where you can clearly see that there's a bend going on here. And then when it bends enough, it just disappears. You can see on this side there's the core piece, but there's nothing on the left side here, because it's completely ripped out, which you can clearly see here. Now, does the cube still function? Yes, to some extent it does. But because you lose that core piece, you lose a lot of stability in the cube, where you can pretty much push the edge all the way up, because the core piece is not there to hold the piece in. Again, the puzzle still functions, but just having that lockup and solve simply ruins the flow of any alg I'm doing. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but other cubes do break. My Weilong Pyraminx kinda exploded. There are also some bigger cubes that broke quite often. But nothing was really as bad as Square 1 hardware. First off were the cheese Square 1s, and these things don't look broken because they have stickers on them, but the stickers kind of hold the pieces together because they're completely broken. And that's around the corners. Then there was the Vote. This one I kind of broke by myself, so that's kind of my fault. But there was a huge problem with this cube breaking edges. Luckily I didn't have this problem too much myself, but if you ask other Square 1ers, you could definitely hear a lot about this cube breaking. Like, a lot. And then there was the Vote V2. Luckily these two puzzles are still intact. But here's my other one with all the broken pieces. And the only reason these two puzzles are intact are because I replaced the broken pieces with another cube and switch out the caps. But there's a crazy number of corners I've broken on this cube as well. And the thing that sucks about the MGC Square 1 is that instead of the corners and edges breaking, it's the core that's breaking. So it's not very easy to just replace the core, because one cube only has one core, or two halves of the core, making a replacement for that quite difficult. Now don't get me wrong, this is an amazing cube. The MGC Square 1 has set a ton of records, it's my main, but this is a huge issue with a ton of Square 1 as well as this one. Is the cube still usable with the break? Yeah, it is. And for the average Square 1 solver, this is not a bad cube. And if you're not turning that fast on it, the core shouldn't break. But for a speed solver like myself for Square 1, I turn pretty fast on this thing, so the core is more likely to break. And when it does break, I really can't deal with these lockups, and I have to get a new cube. And I'm probably one of the luckier ones. There's a ton of other fast Square 1 solvers that have broken a lot more core pieces than me, and have bought a lot more MGC Square 1s than me. But still, there's no reason I need this many cubes just to get a cube that still doesn't function perfectly. So yeah, that's why the MGC Square 1 is the most expensive speed cube, because buying one is not enough. So just a checklist for whoever's making the next Square 1, whether it's GAN or Moyu, just don't make the puzzle break. I honestly don't mind if it's that expensive, even if it's like $50. If it doesn't break, it's still a lot cheaper than what you would have to get if the cube broke all the time. So that's it for this video. Thanks for watching, and cube manufacturers, stop making your Square 1s break, it's so annoying.